that hot mess that they air in the mornings called The View had to issue not one, not two, not three, but 4 corrections, legal corrections. Not to mention what they did at that debate, where once again, they tried to fact check only one side. And then when their fact checks got fact checked, they cowered. They cowered in fear. I mean, this is a pattern with them.
But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it.
Whoopi Goldberg absolutely lost it on live TV. And no, this wasn't about one of Joy Bihar's fashion blunders. The real spark? A brutal on-air takedown from Charlie, Kirk, and Megyn Kelly that hit harder than a reality show reunion fight. Usually calm and composed, Whoopi's demeanor snapped like a twig in a storm. One moment she was holding it together, the next she was fuming, clearly shaken by what had just gone down. So, what exactly did they say that pushed her past the breaking point? Get ready, because this meltdown was spicier than a leaked DM scandal, and it's the TV moment everyone's talking about, but no one saw coming.
Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them.
There she was, Whoopi Goldberg, daytime TV's reigning queen of righteous clapbacks, looking like she just found out Yelp rated her emotional stability with one lonely star. Normally armed with eye rolls sharper than kitchen knives and a sass level worthy of a soap opera villain, Whoopi wasn't just flustered, she was coming apart at the seams. And let's be clear, this wasn't some thoughtful breakdown full of insight and vulnerability. This was chaos with a capital C, the kind you'd expect from a reality star discovering their entourage has been leaking secrets to TMZ. Stirring the pot? None other than Charlie Kirk and Megyn Kelly, a surprise power duo in the art of televised destruction. But before we spill the tea on this delicious disaster, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what comes next.
They're disgusting. She's Anna Navarro in your wildest imagination. You could never solo host a show. You will only ever make it as part of an ensemble, and you could never hope to achieve the success that Tucker Carlson has. So you can sit in your little cheap seats all day long and enjoy your little negative henpecking, but your careers are going nowhere, and Tucker is about to dominate in whatever space he goes to.
Let's rewind for a second, because this meltdown didn't come out of nowhere. Whoopi, parked in her well-worn throne on The View, had been spiraling for a while, just not in a headline-grabbing, Emmy-worthy way. Imagine someone trying to explain world affairs while jet-lagged, dizzy, and juggling flaming torches on a trampoline. That's about the level of clarity and control she was working with. The tension had been simmering for weeks, and honestly, the explosion wasn't if, it was when. And oh boy, when finally showed up.
The reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last.
That was basically the vibe. Every episode felt like rolling the dice in a game of televised roulette. Would we get a spontaneous tirade, a hot take so unhinged it needed a warning label, or a verbal grenade tossed mid-sentence before the commercial break could save us? The View hasn't felt like a structured talk show in ages. At this point, it's more like watching a live-action fever dream where the cast is made up of opinionated aunties from your Facebook feed, armed with microphones and zero filters.
Welcome back. You know, in Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me. And it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So,
What began as a platform for thoughtful dialogue has now shape-shifted into a high-octane shouting match, where nuance is as rare as a calm Twitter thread. And at the center of it all, Whoopi, acting as host, referee, and occasionally her own unreliable narrator. One moment she's correcting the panel, the next she's spiraling into her own off-script subplot. Her opinions hit the airwaves with the swagger of someone who skimmed a meme, misread a tweet, and declared it gospel. This isn't just chaos, it's curated calamity, broadcast Monday through Friday for your scheduled confusion. So naturally, it was only a matter of time before she found herself in the sniper scope of America's professional provocateurs. Enter Charlie Kirk. Marching in from the digital fog like a keyboard crusader, Kirk isn't just another conservative pundit. He's a chaos connoisseur with a nose for blood in the media water. And when he caught wind of Whoopi's latest meltdown, he pounced. Forget debate, Kirk came armed for demolition. With the flair of a verbal assassin, he dismantled her tirade piece by piece, not with anger but with surgical glee. This wasn't commentary, it was theatrical annihilation. Every sentence landed like a dagger dipped in smug, until even the background noise felt personally attacked.
I mean, there was this Turning Point conference with all the smoke. What are they, smoking something down there? Or it's like, whatever. Anyway, they were out there. They were in the front of out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs.
Whoa, the drama. Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, threatened to sue The View. And let me tell you, the nonsense that ensued is really something.
To Charlie Kirk, this wasn't a one-off celebrity slip. It was a textbook example of what happens when Hollywood's finest start freelancing as foreign policy strategists. He didn't just call out Whoopi, he took a sledgehammer to the entire View panel, portraying them as the gold standard of Tinseltown delusion. Not mildly misinformed, completely untethered from planet Earth, floating in an orbit of inflated egos, sipping stardust lattes in a vacuum-sealed echo chamber. As far as Kirk was concerned, The View had stopped resonating with everyday Americans a long time ago. Instead, it had become a couture-clad carousel of elite monologues, where buzzwords replaced substance and smugness came standard. And once he set that tone, he didn't flinch. He carpet-bombed every feed he could. Clips, tweets, podcasts, rants, feeding the digital beast like a man on a mission. Whoopi wasn't trending by accident. She was algorithmically weaponized, packaged, posted, and precision-timed for maximum impact. But the takedown wasn't finished. Enter Megyn Kelly. Less flamethrower, more scalpel. Where Kirk swung with brute force, Kelly moved with surgical intent. She didn't raise her voice, she raised questions. Cool, composed, and cutting, she peeled back Whoopi's argument layer by layer like she was conducting a televised autopsy. Every word was deliberate. Every pause was a highlight reel in restraint. And while Kirk's blow landed like a thunderclap, Kelly's dissection echoed, quiet, unsettling, and impossible to unhear. The glamour cracked, and what peeked through wasn't pretty.
They asked him about that. They asked him about that moment. Watch this, SOT 36.
When the vice president was here, I asked her if she would have done something differently than your administration over the past 4 years. And because of all the successes that your administration had, I think her response was, there is not a thing that comes to mind. Now, that answer was weaponized against her. And there has been some reporting that you encouraged her.
Megyn Kelly didn't show up to rant. She showed up to reconstruct the crime scene. Less firebrand, more forensic examiner, she calmly sifted through the wreckage of Whoopi's recent public missteps with the precision of someone assembling a puzzle of decline. There was no yelling, no dramatic eye rolls, just an icy clarity that cut far deeper. This wasn't cable news theatrics. It was clinical, like watching a surgeon expose the rot beneath a polished surface. While Charlie Kirk brought the flashbangs and ideological shrapnel, Megyn wielded something sharper: silence, timing, and the slow bleed of credibility. Her takedown wasn't personal, it was procedural. Each comment was a scalpel stroke, peeling back the glossy layers of Whoopi's once bulletproof reputation to reveal a brand quietly bleeding relevance. No drama necessary, just doubt, dripping into the audience's mind like a slow leak that's impossible to ignore. Megyn laid it all out like case files on a courtroom table, A trail of gaffes, blunders, and sound bites that, stitched together, told the story of a figure no longer feared or revered but pitied. She didn't say Whoopi was done, but she made you wonder if she'd already peaked. And no one noticed until now. And in today's algorithmic arena, where fame is only as lasting as your last headline, Megyn didn't just critique Whoopi's latest meltdown. She subtly hinted that the entire persona might be past its expiration date. By the time she signed off, Whoopi's towering legacy didn't feel timeless. It felt tired. And just like that, Megyn pivoted, calm and composed, leaving behind a silence louder than any debate. The message was clear. The empire hadn't crumbled. It had quietly eroded, and no one said a word.
Do you think if a liberal came to speak at University of Kentucky, they'd give an open mic like I just did to a conservative and had a discussion like this?
I certainly hope they would.
No, they wouldn't. Because speech is not a left-wing value. That is why they have to deploy shock troops called Antifa to go after everywhere I go. When I go to University of California, Davis next week, there has to be 120 police officers because of the threats, the violent threats of liberals that want me dead, that want to disrupt our events. There are no right-wing hecklers that come to events like this. I think it's rather clear there's one side that is trying to do everything they can to shut one side up, and one side that's trying to open up the marketplace of ideas. And I think that's rather self-evident.
The result? A full-scale media eruption so theatrical, it practically screamed for a Netflix docuseries. It was a glorious collision of egos, opinions, and cultural aftershocks, and Whoopi never saw it barreling toward her. As expected, social media responded with all the grace of a toddler on espresso in a glitter store. Clips spread like wildfire, memes detonated in real time, and content creators worked overtime like DJs spinning chaos at Coachella. This wasn't your standard drip of reaction content. It was a digital tsunami. TikToks rolled out like blockbuster trailers, complete with slow-mo zoom-ins, moody orchestral remixes, and of course, the holy grail of drama, glowing laser eyes. Because what's an online meltdown without some high-def, overproduced flair to really sell the spectacle? But to truly grasp the scale of this internet inferno, you have to step into the fever dream that is The View. It's not so much a talk show as it is a weekday ritual of televised turbulence. Imagine a blend of soap opera theatrics, unfiltered group therapy, and verbal demolition derbies, where nuance isn't just missing, it's been blindfolded and shoved in a supply closet. At the helm, Whoopi Goldberg, the high priestess of the panel, delivering her daily declarations with the conviction of someone channeling the gods of daytime drama. Loud, impassioned, and eternally convinced she's speaking sacred truth, even when the temple's on fire.
Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right.
Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach.
But here's the twist. Even icons trip over their own spotlight. After years of commanding the daytime throne with eye rolls sharp enough to cut glass and a sermon-ready delivery, the atmosphere began to shift. What once felt like gravitas started veering into grandstanding. The once unshakable poise began to fray at the edges. And when the blowback finally came, it didn't knock. It kicked the door off its hinges. Because no matter how long someone's held the mic, eventually the crowd starts asking, are we still buying what they're selling? And sometimes they answer with the remote. This wasn't a reaction to a single misstep. Kirk and Kelly weren't just critiquing, they were redefining. Every dramatic pause, every impassioned monologue that played like a teaser for Whoopi Goldberg, defender of all that is right, was dragged into the spotlight and re-examined under a harsher light. And that's what made this takedown feel seismic. It wasn't just about disagreeing, it was about rewriting the narrative. Whoopi wasn't being seen as the fearless truth-teller anymore. She was being reframed as the loud aunt at Thanksgiving, dominating the table, botching the details, and declaring herself the family sage. Louder and louder, as fewer people listened. That's not just a trip, that's a collapse from cultural royalty to meme-worthy caricature. And the internet? Oh, it didn't miss a beat. It grabbed its popcorn, pulled up a seat, and live tweeted the fall in 4K.
I don't want to say too much, but we're going to have a lot of fun at the Department of Education. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Can I tell you something? Like, I've had quite a few people contact me about that particular post. Like, I'm sure I have 1/100th of what you're getting, but people are contacting me about cabinet posts. I'm like, I got
look,
nothing.
I mean, I'm actually, after this conversation, heading to Mar-a-Lago for a week. And we have a lot to sift through. And if I could be helpful, I have asked. I want to be actively involved in all things education, as you can imagine.
It didn't help that The View has slowly devolved into the TV equivalent of a group project gone off the rails, where every member thinks they're the brains of the operation. The outcome? Plenty of shouting, very little substance, and a round table that treats facts like optional centerpieces. Nice if they're there, but absolutely not required. And when your show becomes a cozy echo chamber for people who feel informed without ever actually being informed, it's only a matter of time before someone pulls the curtain. And this time, it wasn't just anonymous keyboard critics throwing shade. It was high-profile media sharpshooters with massive followings, platforms built for takedowns, and zero tolerance for coasting on dusty trophies. Whoopi's EGOT, great for resumes, useless against a digital storm with receipts. What came next was, well, performance art. There were no witty comebacks, no signature sass. Whoopi didn't snap back, she sank. She showed up on set like someone had whispered the one truth she'd spent years avoiding. Being the loudest voice in the room doesn't mean you're saying anything worth hearing. Her spark? Snuffed. The fire? Gone cold. It was like watching a performer who'd forgotten the script and realized, mid-scene, the applause had stopped. Even her most loyal fans noticed the glitch in the Matrix, the cocky grins. Missing? Those smug mic drop moments, replaced with clunky silences and half-hearted one-liners that hit the floor like a dropped mic with no power. The whole performance had the air of someone who spent the night Googling how to bounce back after becoming a meme.
Whoopi Goldberg was angry when Alyssa pointed out that Trump went to the funeral of Officer Diller.
Yes.
On Long Island, and Joe Biden went to a podcast. Look at Whoopi Goldberg's reaction.
Choose what you like there, but for Republicans, it was good imagery.
Really?
One day later, yes.
And I'm asking that because I was so offended because you know who showed up.
Yeah.
And he was, whether he was asked or not. This is a man who didn't care what happened to the officers on January 6th.
She promotes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris every day on that show. Trump wasn't supportive enough of the cops who were, yes, in danger on J 6th. How does that explain their behavior on a daily basis toward Harris, toward Biden, toward AOC, toward all of the left, including their own show, Sunny Hostin? The hypocrisy is rank.
It's worth remembering that the public thrives on a fall from grace, especially when the person tumbling once acted like they were untouchable. Whoopi, bless her confident but baffling stance, spent years treating The View like her own personal TED Talk, without doing much of the homework. Megyn Kelly's critique landed particularly hard because she didn't paint Whoopi as the villain, but as something far worse, irrelevant. In the ruthless world of media, irrelevance is the ultimate downfall. When Megyn laid out her argument piece by piece, using examples from the show's most cringeworthy moments, the final blow came quietly but decisively. No shouting match, no dramatic exit, just a slow, collective awakening that maybe the Emperor wasn't just exposed, but also a bit out of touch. It's not that Whoopi can't make a comeback. She's proven that before. But this time, the criticism stung deeper. Not because it was harsher, but because it hit the truth. She wasn't being roasted for a single bad comment. She was being called out for a long-standing pattern of smugness, detachment, and half-baked wisdom dressed up in charm. Here's the thing, Charlie Kirk might be loud, but this time, he was right. Megyn Kelly might be polished, but this time she wasn't off base. Together, they achieved something rare, getting people across the political divide to agree that maybe, just maybe, Whoopi's reign was slipping. Not because she got older or louder, but because she grew complacent. The hot takes lost their fire, the outrage felt staged, and the facts became optional. Meanwhile, The View keeps going, oblivious to the fact that it's turning into the televised version of a group chat where no one has the guts to leave. Whoopi still shows up, still serves her signature blend of sass, but now with the unmistakable vibe of someone who knows the audience isn't on her side anymore. The media loves a good comeback, but it's equally fascinated by a spectacular fall. And right now, Whoopi is playing both parts, the icon and the punchline. The real question is, does she even realize the audience has changed? One thing is certain, this unraveling proves that even daytime divas aren't immune to the digital reckoning. When criticism comes from every corner of the ideological spectrum, maybe it's time to swap the soapbox for some self-reflection. The View will carry on, the chairs will keep spinning, and the segments will roll out. But the Goldberg mystique? That's done. And not in an Oscar-winning way. More like the kind of packaging you use to stash leftovers after the party's over and everyone's gone home. So ends the saga of one of daytime TV's loudest voices, silenced not by scandal or censorship, but by the simple truth that sometimes the loudest mic drop comes from voices you never expected to hear.